Alright, so since we are in ban this season, I figured we would talk about cards that have absolutely no reason to still be banned. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I'm just going to throw a 10 card list out there and I would really love for you to participate in this discussion. Now, these cards, I genuinely think there shouldn't be much of a problem with them being unbanned. So let's see, let's check them out. Also like the video if you enjoy it. But starting off with the first card, Glow Up Bulb. Now listen, almost every single tuner came back, and Glow Up Bulb, its effect of if it's sent to the graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the grave, and if you do, special summon this card. It is very similar to Jet Synchron being a level 1 tuner, which just essentially has to get rid of a card as well to be able to be brought back. And I understand, like, I guess it is Earth, it has some implications with specific monsters that utilize Earth tuners, but other than that, you know, it's just a level 1 tuner, just like all the other ones that were unbanned. I genuinely think it probably can come back and shouldn't be much of a threat. I also realized that, you know, it's getting triggered if it's sent to the graveyard. So, you know, it essentially like can trigger in decks where you mill or you pitch or whatever, but I guess in reality, if you're pitching Jet Synchron for something, it can be brought back as like, not a trigger, but as an ignition effect. So very, very, very similar. I do think Glow Up Bulb could come back, maybe to 1 first, and then we'll see what happens. Next up, we have Masterpiece. And yeah, you know, I already mentioned Masterpiece in my ban list predictions. I think Masterpiece can come back, not to mention that, like, the effect overall, it is so frequent right now. Like, they just keep on printing cards that like pop during your opponent's turn, and I've talked about this in my last video, which you have to check out if you haven't, where we talk about ban lists as well. But essentially you have cards like Jyden, Masterpiece, Rise Heart, all of these cards that do very similar things, and they do end up all being banned, but some are more okay to return than others. Like, obviously Masterpiece has the entire protection part of its effect as well, so I realize that people are scared of seeing Masterpiece back. So to tribute summon this card face up, you can also tribute continuous spells and traps you control as well as monsters, and it is then unaffected by cards of that type. And then you also get to banish a continuous spell trap from your grave and target a card on the field, destroy it. So it's not actually that free to trigger the effect. You would play it in True Draco, but True Draco would not be played, period, probably, because we don't have Floodgates anymore. Diagram is a 1 and Card of Demise is a 1. So there's all of this protection and fear when it comes to Masterpiece, but we have a lot of ways, like literally countless ways of negating monsters, just countering monsters in general. So I do think there is a card under the sun which can beat Masterpiece, and I think it could come back. Next up, we have Tyto. So 3 of the 4 Dragon Rulers are at 1 currently, but Tyto is the last one to come back, probably because the effect is the most broken. So Dragon Rulers all share this similar effect where basically if they're in the hand or graveyard, you get to banish a total of 2 of their respective attribute and dragon type or dragon type, so you can basically special summon this card. And during the end phase, it has to return to your hand, but it also has an effect if it's banished, where you get to add a water dragon, earth dragon, fire dragon, you get the gist. And then it also has separate effect, and this separate effect is, I think, what differentiates Tyto, because every Dragon Ruler does something else, where basically you get to discard it and 1 monster that has the same attribute to gain that effect. And Tyto sends 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. There is no restriction. It is just a Foolish Burial type effect, so I think they're a little bit scared to put it back, but in my opinion, I think it should be fine. I don't think it's gonna be abused in any water decks. There aren't really any water decks like dominating. There are some good ones, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, seeing as how other Dragon Rulers don't really pose a threat, I think Tyto is fine to come back to 1. Now, okay, let's talk about the next card, which I think out of all these cards, this one is the most likely to come back and poses the least bit of a threat, and it's Meow Moo. It's really funny to say that, actually, because Prank Hits were so dominant at full power first, and then Meow Moo went to 1, and they were still really good. Their end board is 2 destructions of the entire field. It is funny how that does not really achieve a lot in today's format. So I think Meow Moo can safely come back to 1. and I kind of doubt people will play Prankist. Let's talk about the next two cards, which I want to talk about them in tandem, I guess. One of them is Zodiac Dryden, and the other one is Zodiac Barrage. I've said this a bunch. Almost every single ban list predictions I do, I will predict one of these cards to come back to one. And I've already said it when I talked about Masterpiece. Like, sometimes cards just do very similar things, but they decide to ban one and release another. Like, again, when they printed a Rise card, it is literally Dryden, but it banishes face down. And yes, both of them are banned at this point in time, but Dryden can come back. Like, Zodiacs were pretty much just there to abuse Zeus. And I think Zeus is fine. Like, if you cannot deal with Zeus right now, I think that's an issue. So yeah, I don't think Dryden has to be banned because some people don't really have a way of like dealing with a couple send Zeus. I get that it's really, really annoying, but I still think people would not probably play Zodiac, I guess, as much because we have really, really powerful decks out there right now. And you know, power creep is a thing. And very similarly to that, same arguments go for Barrage. If it comes back to 1, I get that it's Saki, so I wouldn't be a huge fan of seeing this card at 1 because it was extremely annoying when it was at 1 when I played like Zodiac Eldritch. I mean, I did play the deck, but playing against it was really annoying. So yeah, you know, like, I don't think it's much of a... I guess we shouldn't be worried about having Dryden and Barrage at 1. And yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I do think both of them are fine. And I don't think many people will actually gravitate towards Zodiac. Now, this next one is going to be another XYZ. It's Wind Up Carrier Zen Mighty. And a lot of people will say this, that Zen Mighty is fine. It can come back even without trading it in for Hunter. Now, in OCG, Hunter is, of course, hit. However, over here we have Zen Mighty forbidden and Hunter is not really touched. So yeah, of course they decided to go for a much better approach in the OCG, where over here pretty much it takes 2 level 3 monsters, and once per turn you can detach an Xyz material, special summon a wind up from your hand or deck, and when a face-up wind up monster in the field is destroyed and sent to your grave, you can detach 1 Xyz material to target that monster, return that target to the hand. So it has a really good effect that would actually be good in wind-ups, obviously, because Hunter is the main issue. So I would also be okay with them hitting Hunter to put Zen Mighty back, because this one does much more for the archetype, but it was hit due to the entire Hunter hand loop, and you know, it's just, that's really sad. So right now with so many hand traps, I think this deck would not be a threat, even with both cards being legal. Again, I could be wrong. Let me know what you think, but I think it should be fine. So this next one might be a tiny bit controversial. It is Chicken Game. So let's check Chicken Game out. The player with the lowest life points takes no damage, and once per turn during the main phase, the turn player can pay 1k life points to activate one of the effects. Either draw a card, destroy this card, or your opponent gains 1000 life points. And neither player can respond to that. So you can manipulate life points, so you're the one taking no damage. You also get to destroy this card if you don't really wanna deal with it. And you also can draw 1 card. And literally it is unlimited in the OCG, so I think it could be fine over here. It is just 1. I doubt people would play it. And even if they do, since both players can gain some kind of advantage, it's gonna matter which of them utilizes the card better. So I don't know. I think it's fine. I'm just a little bit doubtful because it is really, really good, but I don't know. I think it's okay. Next up, we have one of the scariest cards on this list. It is Magic Spectre Unicorn Kirin. And I think it's so scary to me because I've only ever heard like just terrible things about Kirin, and it is forbidden in the OCG as well. So during either player's turn, you get to target a pendulum monster in your monster zone, and 1 monster your opponent controls, return them to the hand. And it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects, so you can also bounce itself and then, you know, an opponent's monster. So it is just a bounce, but these things just, they are scary. And Kirin was played, you know, in a time when it was just extremely, extremely broken to do this effect. So I'm not certain what could happen if it comes back right now, but I do have a feeling that it shouldn't be much of an issue. I get that it cannot be targeted or destroyed, so it's really tough to deal with it. But right now we have monsters that literally can beat over it, and they are essentially free summons. So there's a way, and also like non-target send, non-target banish, stuff like that. There's many more effects in the game that can deal with those types of cards. And at the end of the day, it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade-off, but I still think it could be fine. A little bit scary though. And next up we have, I guess, a card that could go in tandem with that. It is Electrumite. Now, seeing Electrumite back, possibly, and Kirin, I still don't think it would be too much of a threat, because Pendulum decks just, they die to hand traps. I know that they can play through some stuff, but a lot of times it's going to be really, really tough, and they seem a little fragile. Not a lot of them can play a lot of non-engines, so I just think overall, in general, people will not, gravitate towards Pendulum decks, even if Electrumite comes back. It is an amazing card, one of my favorite cards in the game. So you require 2 Pendulum monsters if it's Link Summon. You get to add a Pendulum monster face up to your extra deck, and then basically you get to target a face up card you control, you destroy it, add 1 face up Pendulum monster back to your hand, but if a card in your Pendulum zone is destroyed, you get to draw a card. So it's just so solid, gets you a lot of advantage and just resources. But I think it is fine, not unhealthy, not terrible, not toxic. I think it could come back, and we'll see what happens. Only at 1 though, so we can test the waters. And with that, we are almost done with today's video. There are 10 cards obviously on this list, but I do have an 11th honorable mention, and it's going to be Block Dragon. With all the discourse right now about Flamberge pretty much equaling Block Dragon, it is again the case of Masterpiece Kirin, a Rise card, which I keep circling back to. Like, I don't know. Block Dragon was extremely, extremely powerful. What it did for Adamantia was actually insane. But at the end of the day, it was just this one-time search that you had. And also, there's no Union Carrier anymore. So it's not as easy to just attach like a Block Dragon to it, equip it, I guess. And then if it's sent off, you basically get to trigger the effect. Like, Adamantia is not exactly, any kind of threat right now. So if they get Block Dragon to 1, I think it could be fine. It's just gonna be a combo deck that could lose to multiple hand traps probably. And getting your Block Dragon like hit, or like if it's a 1 and you completely cut access to it or something, like I think Block Dragon is okay. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I really enjoy doing these types of videos where we just chat pretty much about cards and the game and ban list and all of it. So let me know if you will want me to make more. I would love to do that. We'll probably do that regardless, but I would love to hear your thoughts. And of course, ding the bell so you are notified when I post, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!